You are watching and listening to Leverage, the podcast about politics, power, and influence. I am Kristal Taylor.
And I'm Breon Wells.
And we're back. We are
We're back.
We are back. It has been literally 3 years since our last recording. I think July 9th of 19, no, not 19. What year are we in? 2019 was like our last recording. And it seems like a whole lot of life has happened in the last 3 years. What have you been doing for the last 3 years, twin?
Yeah, I mean, we got a new president. The verdict is still out on whether, folks are fully happy or there's buyer remorse, but we have a new president. We have had 11 million versions of a variant. We've been outside the house to go back inside the house, coming back outside the house. And wait a minute, we're going back inside the house, but now outside is open a little more again.
And where your mask at? Why we don't have a mask on right now, actually?
My mask is actually here because we are social distancing, right? Mm-hmm. We're doing that responsible thing. We are virtually by ourselves and physically by ourselves so that we can make sure that we are doing things right, keeping it tight and right every time.
Excellent. It's wild to me. Like, I almost feel like I've lived several different lifetimes in the last 3 years. You hit on all, I feel like, some of the main themes, the main social notes, transitions in leadership. My consulting roster has changed dramatically. My family dynamic has shifted. My bonus baby, who I've known since he was 2, my husband has a son from a previous relationship, but my bonus baby now lives with us full time. So 2 of the last 3 years have been spent mothering 2 Black boys through virtual school and a whole panini, a whole panorama, whole pandemonium, all of that. All at the same time, it's all of them, right? It's all of them, right? But it's like all at the same time that we're dealing with like these fever pitch levels of chaos and crisis. Like, I don't know about you. I don't even think that I am emotionally, I can't even say healed, right? From the traumas of COVID, of George Floyd, Breon Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and 1,100 other Black people who've been killed at the hands of racism, white supremacy, inappropriate police conduct. Like, I don't think I've healed from that. I don't think I've been able to put proper context in my mind around this ridiculous outpouring of increased anti-Asian hate and sentiment that we've seen. And, a lot of our work at Influence centers around civic engagement organizations in Georgia. And so even when I think back to like just that massive spree of killings where you had like 8 Asian women who were just killed for no reason, right? Other than this man he had a bad day. Was that the excuse that we were hearing? Like, so much has happened. I don't even know how to begin processing everything, much less to talk about, are we healed and on this journey? So it's been a lot these last 3 years. It's been a lot.
It has been on our end. The Daniel Initiative got my little merch. We have stuck our little logo on some hats and shirts and things.
Where's
hashtag
Where's mine at?
Sidecoin, right? Sidecoin.
Sidecoin, bring it back. And also, I need my hat. I need you to send me my hat.
It's on its way, and folks can buy and look and purchase theirs online soon. We're doing this online shop.
I love it.
But on the business side, I mean, the Daniel Initiative has been busy, especially when we saw this pandemic, and there's a whole host of communities that did not receive and were overlooked, even when we talk about CARES Act funding, right? And the Paycheck Protection Program and the ability to keep their business afloat, or currently incarcerated people, which these jails and prisons are petri dishes for, this pandemic that we're struggling with. But then we were also blessed to be able to help coordinate, some of these government relations, congressional sides for like the March on Washington in the middle of a pandemic. And we didn't see rising COVID rates from that. We was blessed, but this movement side of things. It's kept us busy, but we've tried to do things in a safe way. But back to your point though, too, I think that we have not had the time to process the many different layers of trauma. What we know is what we tend to do in the Black community is we grin and bear it and hunker down to get done what needs to get done. Right. But I think that even as we're seeing things like the hate crime in Buffalo, New York, that unfortunately hit us within just a few weeks ago, the killing in Uvalde, Texas, of 19 children, 19 Latino children. I think that it's really pushing us to have conversations on where can Black and brown and multi-marginalized bodies not just find safety and not just find the space to breathe, but to find that space to heal with even the emotional support services we need from clinical psychologists and psychiatrists, by the way, that look like us. That can help walk us through, that are, culturally competent and understand the importance of social emotional learning. So, I think in part, I hope that in this season, this new season of leverage that we're delving into, that we can help, our listeners, and we can help you all get to this journey of what healing looks like while we're trying to journey on it ourselves.
No, absolutely. And you know what, another shout out, finger snap, all of the things when you talk about what are the avenues that we use for healing, I would be telling bold-faced lies if I did not profess just the necessity of therapy, of wellness groups, of friends who lovingly hold me accountable, over this last year and a half, in particular, because I think to one of the points you were raising about, the kind of grin and bear it mentality, I think especially for me, and I know that this is a feeling that's similar, right, for a lot of entrepreneurs, for mothers, for working parents, all of that. There was this really strong impulse, even as you're getting assaulted left and right by whether it's news headlines, traumatic events in your family, losing loved ones, I have too many to count, friends who passed away, family members who passed away in the last 3 years. And the role that therapy has played as an essential anchor, just to not only help develop a place of sanity, right? You know what I'm saying? A place of sanity and calm in the moment, but also a resource to just start adjusting my perspective. And I'll tell you, one of the things that's happened, apart from turning 40 earlier this year, because people not playing. Listen, people not playing when we talk about things shift. You hit as my therapist calls it, the F at 40s. We're gonna be PG today, right? You hit a certain point. We're gonna be PG. We're gonna be PG. But you hit a certain point when you just have to stop and say, what is worth my time and my energy? What am I pouring into? Who am I pouring into? And then by extension, what am I allowing to infiltrate my mind, my psyche, my spirit? That whole dynamic, and being able to work with a therapist. I'm also part of a wellness group, right, which is primarily Black women, but it's other women as well, and there's value. And one, I think there's a level of transparency, right, where we just say, what? I'm not okay. I'm actually not okay. I'm functioning at a high level. I'm doing a lot. I'm also tired. I'm sad. I'm stressed. I'm frustrated. I need help. I need, all of these things that come out. And I think one of the most beautiful things amid the chaos, because God knows we have had more than our fair share of chaos over these past 3 years. I think one of the most beautiful things that has emerged is this understanding that, you know what? It's okay to be human. It's okay to admit when we're struggling, when we have a little bit of defeat. And I think it's that humanity, right? It's these transparent acknowledgements that we are just human. That is what, in the midst of everything in these last 3 years, that's something that gives me hope. That is something that gives me a lot of hope, because it says, as we are more able to see each other's humanity, to be able to connect with people on a real level, not all the superficial, stuff that we're confronted with on a regular, but like, as we're able to connect with people in some really real and tangible ways, like, there is promise for progress. There is this light where we can say, all right, we've been acting real foolish, we've been acting real dumb. Let's do something different, maybe. Let's throw up our arms and be like, we don't want to do that anymore. Let's try something new. And I feel as if we're shifting into this space right now where maybe we're trying some different solutions. I don't know. I might be naive and a bit Pollyanna about it, but I almost feel like we are on the cusp of a new moment where we're saying, yo, there's so many systems around us that are broken, whether by design or like they've just eroded in time, but there's so many systems that are broken. So what do we do different? How do we make a shift here? You are watching and listening to Leverage, the podcast about politics, power, and influence. I am Kristal Taylor.
And I'm Breon Wells.
So as we start talking about, these moments of realness, of transparency, of how we start shifting, we find ourselves on our relaunch weekend. All sorts of holidays, right?
All the things.
Listen, Juneteenth is now an official holiday. That's something we got over the last 3 years. Although I don't know that we asked for Juneteenth to be a federal holiday, but that's part of a conversation,
we
right?
Didn't, and let me say here, for all people, let me save y'all some heartache and maybe some fights. We commemorate Juneteenth. We don't celebrate, because the history is that it was 2.5 years that particularly the Black people in Texas, Galveston, didn't even know that they were free. So, we commemorate. We don't, that doesn't mean don't have fun. That doesn't mean don't relax, and I have my own personal opinions on whether all of us should be getting a paid holiday off. But, we will leave that for the hot dogs and hamburgers and all of the things later.
The Kool-Aid, all the parties.
Kool-Aid.
Whose house you gonna electric slide at? That's the question.
There is a block party happening with one of the spaces that we invest in. In fact, as you know, Kristal, Daniel Initiative, we're about trying to promote equity amongst Black and brown folks in the policy space, but we also invest in Black. So we're part of the Gathering Spot movement, and there is a block party happening out, in I'm sure various spaces to be able to commemorate Juneteenth. But it's always good to invest in Black, hang with those folks on such an important acknowledgement of a time. As we're still fighting though in our own way for liberation. I think they were fighting the oppressions of very real physical and policy entrapment. And what we're fighting still today, though the fight continues, it just has a different contour. We're fighting for liberation, just the ability to be, to exist, as our good friend Cece,
the ability to frolic.
Cece hit us up. We had to have her on the space since we just sat there and gave her some space. But yeah, we want the ability to live and to thrive, to express all of the multifacetedness of Black.
Listen, or not, right? We want the ability to just decide what we want to do and what we don't want to do, to have agency absent the expectations of other people that like, oh, well, this is what you're supposed to do and this is what you're supposed to be. Like, I'm really just supposed to just be human, just be me,
right?
Like not conforming to like whatever ideas or expectations anybody else has, but to say I can just be. and to think that being is a privilege that hasn't been afforded to us for so many years, right? So
That's right.
I'm with you.
That's
I'm
right.
with you on the commemoration as opposed to celebration. Because to be very honest, like most of the Black folks I know, many of which hardworking, got their job, got their side hustle, got whatever else. They're making use of this time to not only figure out new ways to invest in Black, but to create, yes, to rest, but also think about, so how do I take my gifts? How do I take my position? How do I take my passion and use it differently in service of my community, right? So I love the idea of talking about Juneteenth is more about commemoration as opposed to like, oh, let's just celebrate and wild out. It's like, let's acknowledge the moment and the space, and
That's right.
also how do we chart some different trajectories
That's
for
right.
ourselves and our communities going forward.
So basically, how do we commemorate, build upon what was, and leverage that moment? You see what I did there, twin?
I see that.
Leverage that
I like
moment
that.
to be able to imagine a new future, imagine new ways, be able to tap into all that creativity and talent. So shout out to all the Black creatives on this Juneteenth. Shout out to all of the Black professionals. Shout out to just Black life and liberty and Black love, all things Black on this Juneteenth.
Black be Black.
Now it's also, right, now this is the first time this nation will commemorate Juneteenth, but it also happens to land on a very important day. This is where, you know, COVID, we're trying to like shake off the fog and be like, that's right, we have fathers. That's right. We try to celebrate these fathers because it's also Father's Day.
Listen,
and
mamas
so,
usually get graduation because like graduations are usually always on or around Mother's Day for some reason. And this year, fathers get to have the double duty because it's Juneteenth and Father's Day, both of which are celebrated during Pride Month. All sorts of intersectionality happening right now.
Right. So shout out to all the fathers, whether you have biological kids or not. We have sometimes these father figures, these mentors, these role models in our communities that help hold us down, that we go to for advice, and they are being responsible in how they are bringing up the next generation. They are holding down the grind, working day in and day out, being supportive. Shout out to all the fathers in every form and manifestation.
Yes. And I'm gonna take extra point of privilege and do a special shout out to my daddy.
All right, now
we're actually visiting him in Central Florida, and it's funny because we were talking, and this is the first time in a long time. Well, actually, no, not first time in a long time. First time ever that for Father's Day, he's had his 3 kids, his 3 girls under one roof, both his grandbabies, right, biological and bonus baby, and his son-in-law, right? So we are very excited about this Father's Day, especially because it's been some rocky times over these past couple years around just health and all of that for family. So special shout out to my daddy and to my husband, and to my uncles, to my friends, all the friends with kids, and to your point, the friends who may not have biological children, but are out here fathering and raising up and supporting and lifting up our children, especially young Black boys. All the love to young Black girls. I think there is a special role that Black fathers play in the lives of young Black boys. So I always commend and uplift that when you see positive mentorship and energy and activity coming out from folks, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, before we close out on our first episode, it would not be a conversation about leverage if we did not at least touch on a little bit on this intersection of power, politics, and influence. And one of the hot topic issues of the day right now, for better or worse, is gun violence. which this will obviously not be the only time we talk about it. There's so many things to discuss, but right now, kind of just give our listeners a bit of an update on the lay of the land and some things they can expect to see on the gun violence front, especially from Congress. Or not see.
Right. And if I will, let me pull back a little and remind everybody, we're in the middle of an election year. And so the question that you want to grapple with is, what should be on the ballot? What are you going to make this conversation piece? We talk and leverage a lot about how we build a strategy. So we're not just going to check this ballot box, right, and say we did this civic engagement duty, but how am I building a strategy so it works for me? And so, we know that the Build Back Better that deals with how do we support from a human infrastructure side, more importantly, Black and brown, not just lives generally, but Black lives, brown lives, these others, that should be on the ballot. But then also, as Kristal, as you brought up, we've had more mass shootings in this year alone than there are days in the year. And I mean, it's like outside open back up, and then here we go. And, there's a whole host of conversations that we don't think about the intersection. So it's not just about the shooting and the location that took place, but it's how we respond. And even it's maybe a consideration on how we look at safety, because often it's the let's arm each other, let's harden these schools, let's put more police in these spaces. And that doesn't work for every community. And most of the Black people I'm talking to, I know the Black community is not monolithic, but most of the Black people I'm talking to don't want more police in their communities. They don't want them in their schools. They don't want school hardening measures, And so Congress, the Senate side, has tried to, I guess, take their crack at, some sort of gun control legislation. As with everything in Washington, no one's going to get everything that they want, but there are some very real and critical conversations that are being had as they are putting together the language as we speak. There has not been any language. There's just been an agreement on a framework and ideals. So what does that mean? That means if I were you, I would take this opportunity to get on the Googles, as some of our grandparents said, get on the Googles, and start to look at just really what are the different layers of this problem. That we have a desperate need to, provide not just some sort of safety in how we look at weaponry in this country and the access to it, but how it bleeds in our communities and its impact in our schools and its impact on our young people. And back to our original point then, Kristal, the trauma. Right? The trauma. And so as we try to figure out collectively together, because this takes everybody, it's not just your senator and your congressman, they need to hear from you real time. If this pandemic showed us anything, it's that legislation does touch every area of life. And this pandemic showed us when you shut down all these things, it's amazing how quickly Congress moved to try to address all those issues because they saw it as a ballot box issue. So my last secret I'd leave you with is make what safety looks like to you a ballot box issue. Let that be how you leverage this moment. You see what I did there again?
I see it. You're good. You just be doing, you got all the layers. Right. You did the perfect setup because our future episodes are going to be talking about gun violence, movement in Congress. We talking about mental health and wellness, talking about everything that's going on with the Supreme Court. Ooh, we have so much to talk about.
A Supreme Court justice that is Black, that's on her way in.
She
a
rose.
Black woman.
We were saying she will rise, and she rose. She rose. You see what I did there? She will rise. Anyway.
I see what you did. Ketanji Brown Jackson, shout out.
Interesting tidbit, right? The interesting tidbit. So she was a graduate of Miami Palmetto High School, which is actually the high school that my mother integrated. My mom was the first Black student to attend Miami Palmetto Senior High School. And then to see Supreme Court Justice, first Black woman Supreme Court Justice, right? KBJ, Ketanji Brown Jackson, as our justice, coming out of that institution is amazing. Yeah, obviously, all the accolades from Harvard.
Say it again.
Harvard.
Okay.
Harvard. Fabulous, amazing, and wonderful. The one that most touches me is that she went to my mom's alma mater, where she integrated. So super dope.
Yep. And definitely, y'all stay tuned, because now, since outside is hopefully responsibly being open, y'all may see us at some conferences and or spaces near you. Who would know? We want to interact with you.
It may happen. It may happen. Because we back.
We back. Come on, sponsors. We back. Come on, folks. Remember our This Could Be You segment. Remember our This Could Be You placement.
Hashtag what? Hashtag who? What we doing with that coin? Hashtag coin. Hashtag coin. All of that. Twin, it is so great to be back with you. We back, and I can't wait to see you and to talk a bit more on our next episode of Leverage, the Politics, Power, and Influence podcast. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye.